So 10 years ago, Bad Bunny doing a Super Bowl all in Spanish would have been pretty. I don't know how many people would have predicted it. A Puerto Rican artist doing that. So I guess like my question is, will we ever see an Afrobeats African artist? And I think we will. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. Compiled about 7 to 10 nuggets that I wanted to talk with today. But before I do that, just a little bit of a pitch of what I'm doing here. This is my second video, so getting better and better with time and still learning, and that's okay. I mean, that's the whole process. I hope you subscribe and you keep watching. Independent, authentic, and just making videos, analyzing and breaking down curated stories, topics I find interesting that I think are underreported. I will try to do it under 10 minutes. It can be hard sometimes, but I'll do my best. I have my timer here. And at its core, my thesis is that I believe curiosity can change the world. I've seen it be extremely fruitful for me. People like interesting people. And I think there's a benefit. It makes you a better conversationalist. It allows you to just connect the dots more. And the final thing I'll say is like true innovation doesn't come from like thinking harder and like being in a cave or whatnot, but it comes from really getting more things from channels like this. And that's when you start making connections of like, if this worked in this country, or if this policy is changing trends in America, I wonder what that does, or I wonder if I should invest, or I wonder if I should go find another job. Like these things do matter. So anyways, I'll get into it. So Bad Bunny performed in the Super Bowl in San Francisco. There was a bit of a pushback, a bit of a fit thrown by some people. I know Donald Trump said that it doesn't represent America. Well, it actually represents a lot of people in America and people that you need to win elections, because the fact is that Donald Trump was elected because of Latino. A lot of young Latino men in particularly voted for Donald Trump. But if you're seeing some of the trends, like heading into the 2026 midterms, that I will be very, very much covering. So that's another reason you guys should subscribe and keep watching. But the average Democrat overperformance is plus 13. And you see it in places with a heavy Latino population. There was a recent election, like Texas state Senate election, like crazy overperformance from 2024. If these trends hold, Democrats, I'm telling you guys right now, will win the House, but they might win like the Senate. And I don't want to get too into, midterm talk right now, but it's kind of a thing putting out something like what Donald Trump said, in the spring before midterms that really affect the rest of his presidency. To me, it kind of shows that he's not playing like the 3D chess or whatever, that he kind of just like says things. And so it's a very interesting thing. And now the final thing I'll say on this, on people who were upset by the show, I think it's a very big lack of curiosity. Like to me, it's like if I see a J-pop or a Bollywood Super Bowl show, I will be interested in watching it and being kind of like, I want to watch my own thing. Like to me shows a lack of curiosity. So as a curiosity enthusiast, I think that's like, that's an interesting thing. But moving into Africa, so the reason kind of like my thoughts were here is you see this like huge phenomenon of what really used to be like American music as like the top music in the world that everyone listened to, and it still is, and hip hop's still big, but you've seen a tremendous rise in Latin music from Latin America, spearheaded by Puerto Rico, Colombia, and now Mexico. Really, in 2024, there was a huge pop-off of traditional Mexican music infused with some of these modern sensibilities. And if you think about what other areas of the world could produce a musical culture like this that makes it to the Super Bowl, I think maybe my mind goes to like K-pop and the success that has had internationally, but it goes very obviously to Africa and Afrobeats. So let's talk about a little bit about where Africa is. And by the way, I'll just give a little bit of a caveat that Africa and Latin America are like my two biggest areas of interest, as well as Myanmar. I'm very fascinated by the country of Myanmar in Southeast Asia, but I think Africa is the coolest. Like I think it's just such an interesting place. So I'm Latinology. I need someone to be Africology. I don't know how you would say it, but like someone should do what I'm doing for Africa. And if someone's interested, like, please message me because that's it's such an interesting area of the world. Uh, at a very high level, you see that after World War II, when they started African countries, and I'm talking sub-Saharan Africa here, started gaining independence, you see kind of the 60s, like a lot of peaceful, like not dictatorship. But then in the 70s and the 80s, you see a huge rise in dictatorships all over the continent, like all over. You see Mugabe in Zimbabwe, you see dictatorships in Nigeria, you see in East Africa, like Congo, Central African Republic. But then actually, after let's say like, I don't know, 1985 to pick a year, you see it start decreasing. And like 2011, like there's a decrease. But now it's actually growing, and you see a growth in that. Traditionally, it's been in sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria, and South Africa. And so you can kind of think of it from like the Latin America context as Nigeria being like what Brazil sort of is to Latin America, and South Africa being a little bit of what Mexico is. But above that, you kind of see areas of like bubbles, booms in certain areas that I think are so fascinating because I also, I really enjoy traveling. And I'm always thinking, what's the next trendy travel destination? And I think one that you're going to start seeing for backpackers is these three regions that I'll see in Africa. Because sometimes people like, I met people in Southeast Asia that they were like, I don't know if I can backpack if I can backpack Africa. But I see three regions where you're going to start seeing a development, and you already are seeing it, but like much more at a global scale, of international travel as like destinations, right? So I see, for example, the West Africa corridor from Lagos, Nigeria to Abidjan, Ivory Coast. I see that. That's a really successful, I mean, they're doing better than a lot of their peers in sub-Saharan Africa. I see East Africa. So like Kenya, Nairobi had always been kind of a success story. But Tanzania, which especially in the coast, and then Kilimanjaro, always has been like a tourist destination, but that's growing, and you see people going there and hostels opening up in places like Zanzibar. And by the way, the other thing for Eastern Africa, like I can definitely see something like, I don't know, like Uganda. It's already is with like gorilla tours, but that could be a very popular destination and a very good economic hub, like Nairobi, Rwanda. Rwanda is such an exception, like such an interesting case of what they're doing. Now, they're very controversial because they're sponsoring a very brutal war in Eastern Congo for resources, but some of the policies that they've done domestically are super interesting. Like they're sponsoring, and they're like really going all in. They're sponsoring like European soccer clubs with Visit Rwanda. So that's a very interesting thing. And the other, it's like, I would say, like Southern Africa, which South Africa has its fair share of issues right now with crime and gangs and all of that, but it's always going to be a popular destination. And I think you can see like countries like Botswana, which is sort of like the Uruguay of Africa, or Namibia, which is sort of like the Paraguay of Africa. And you see these countries that are very peaceful, just very beautiful, culturally rich countries that you can see people doing like treks around there. When you talk about Afrobeats, there's I'll link it in the description, and I think you guys should read it. This very, very interesting article that says, hip hop meets hedge funds, Wall Street's new obsession with global sounds. And it's basically investors in the US that see the huge potential that you see in Latin American music and African music, Afrobeats music, just like as this juggernaut that's just rising and rising, right? The whole reason the NFL put Bad Bunny wasn't really to like, I don't know, please people in the US or whatever. It was more of expanding the reach in like the rest of the world, because the rest of the world, yes, Latin America, but like Bad Bunny is super popular in like Scandinavia. And that's kind of the big reason they put it. And I think when you think of music that people dance to, people are gravitated to naturally, like to me, I see the next big thing being Afrobeats. If it's not already the main, like it's already hugely popular, but I think you're going to see like it go into the mainstream, into the Super Bowl. Like Bad Bunny performing in the Super Bowl, it's like this moment of like Latin music. It's like the mainstream, like cool music worldwide now. And I think you're going to see something. So like, think about it this way. In Bad Bunny's popularity, like let's think the Por Siempre album in 2018, Okay, 2018. So, like, I think we can see something like maybe earlier, maybe like 2028, you start seeing an artist popping off, and then 2036, you see an Afrobeats artist in the Super Bowl, something like that. But I think it's inevitable that it will happen. Um, there's this song that I wanted to call out. It's called Santa. It's by Rauw, Alejandro, Ayra, Starr, and I don't know how his name is, like Rvssian. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but it's like, I don't know, it's a name. But it's basically a Puerto Rican, Jamaican, and Nigerian artist collaborating. You guys should listen to this song because to me that's the future. I mean, that's where this stuff is going. And when you start combining these things, it becomes something very, very popular and very profitable. Like these acts, there was reporting by the Wall Street Journal, and I'll also link that in the description. But like, it's such a tremendous industry that in the rise of, for example, this Mexican music that I was describing in 2024, they were outselling like mainstream concerts by like a lot. I mean, it's super, super profitable. I see, I don't know, I see really good ideas coming out of this that eventually, like, I don't know, someone should do it. Maybe me, maybe someone else. But imagine, I don't know, imagine a nightclub where it's one floor Latin American reggaeton music, Bad Bunny, and others, many, many others. And then another floor that's like Afrobeats music. Like, that would be, in a place like Amsterdam, that would be huge. Like, I mean, that would be like a really good business because the demand is there for that product. If, like, I am telling you guys, if the government of, say, Nigeria and Ghana, if they did, and then Benin and Togo as well, if they did like a train, like a tourist train from Lagos to Accra, stop maybe at some of the voodoo sites in Benin, and you make it like a destination, like I'm telling you, people would travel the same way people are traveling to Puerto Rico for to experience, the birthplace of reggaeton. People will and are going to travel, and you're already seeing it. There was this like 36 hours in Lagos story last week. Um, how like people are traveling to Lagos to experience this Nigerian Afrobeat culture. That's a tremendous opportunity, I would say, for them. But anyways, that's everything because I also don't want it to go too long. I think 12 minutes, which is what I'm at right now. It's kind of like my top mark. And I'm proud actually that I kept it below because I can riff for a little bit. But I think this is an underreported story. I think it's so fascinating, and I will keep an eye. And just from a personal level, I recommend listening to Latin music, African music. It's most of what I listen to. I listen to a lot of like French African music because I lived in Quebec City and I'm just very interested in that, and French hip hop with a lot of African roots. But it's just super interesting. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys, for watching. Take care.